All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 9th meeting at the Garden Grove City Council and our new format here in the big room. Let's start out with roll call. Madam Clerk, may you please call roll?
Councilmember Deidre Wynn?
Here.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yeah.
Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Here.
Councilmember Kim Wynn?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Here.
Mayor Jones?
Here.
And Councilmember Brightingham is absent.
And my understanding, by the way, is Councilmember Brightingham got caught up in work in LA and is on his way racing down here, and he'll join us shortly. Can we start out with the invocation by Maria Stipe, Assistant City Manager? And then may I ask Councilmember Tuhawin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If everybody could please stand and prepare yourselves according to your faith. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance as we meet this evening to conduct business for our city government. Please help us to keep in mind we are here to serve the people and enable us to make our decisions so that we may do what is best for all of the citizens of Garden Grove. Grant that in serving our community, we may also honor you. Amen.
Place your right hand over your heart, raise your flag, and repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 1, presentations. We do have a public safety update regarding 4th of July holiday upcoming from our police chief and fire chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Chief Roberts and I will do a brief presentation on the 4th of July for you all. So, to begin, the Garden Grove Police Department will be working on monitoring various websites for the sales of illegal fireworks. This worked out great last year, and we were able to curb some of the issues that we had by actually seizing quite a few things of illegal fireworks before the 4th of July last year. Additionally, we will have fireworks stands. We will have 35 fireworks stands that have been approved for fireworks sales between July 1st and July 4th. OCFA personnel will be conducting inspections on July 1st between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. In regards to our enforcement, only safe and sane fireworks are permitted during the time of July 1st to July 4th. Any discharge or possession of illegal fireworks will result in a $1,000 administrative citation. The use of illegal fireworks, and you will get a citation, and multiple citations can and will be issued. In regards to the discharge of fireworks, do not discharge fireworks in city parks or open spaces. City parks will be closing at 5 p.m. and city park sprinklers will be activated to prevent the ignition of grass and vegetation. For public education, we will be conducting press releases as well as information on our websites throughout the city, the police department, the Orange County Fire Authority, and animal care. And I will hand this portion over to Chief Roberts.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, city staff, and residents. Thank you, Chief. So continuing with our safety tips, as you are aware, safe and sane fireworks are going to be for sale here in the city. Those are the only fireworks that should be discharged within the city. We are suggesting that only adults should light these fireworks. We would ask that you don't light any of these fireworks near combustible vegetation. As you're aware, we had a really warm day today. We're going to continue to have warm weather, and so our vegetation will be well below its ignition point and ready to burn. We would ask that you also be cognizant of combustible roofs. That usually tends to be one of our biggest calls for service on the 4th of July. We would ask that when you do discharge the fireworks that you use some sort of water, if you want to place it in a bucket of water or if you want to use a hose. We would ask that you just wet that firework to cool that down before you put it in a trash can. And once it's in that trash can or that receptacle, please keep it away from anything combustible for several hours if we can. Thank you.
We're available for any questions. That's the end of our presentation.
Only one question.
Go ahead, Phil.
When you say only adults can ignite the firework, do you mean people above 18, 21? What do you mean?
I'm sorry, Councilman, I didn't quite hear that
Okay.
clear enough.
When referring to only adult can fire the firecracker, can you clarify the age? Would that be 18 or 21 to be considered adult?
We
in
would
this
prefer
case?
we would prefer a person 18 or older to
Okay.
be lighting that firework.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions or comments? Thanks. It'll be an interesting 4th of July this year as we go through this transition, trying to come back out of lockdown and so forth. So hope it goes well from our standpoint. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim.
I just wanted to make, it's not a question, just more a comment. I'm all for folks being patriotic and doing their fireworks, but I would just love to ask and urge and plead with our public to please be mindful of property, vehicles, and pets. The last couple of weeks, I can't tell you how many fireworks that sound like bombs and gunfire going off, and like my poor, our Garden Grove mascot Einstein is not loving it, and he spends most of his time cowering in the bathroom, and I can't coax him out. And so I know a lot of pet owners are struggling with this, and so just be mindful and respectful of it. I'm hearing car alarms go off the second these fireworks pop off, so just mindful and respectful of your surroundings and the people around you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on to oral communications. We do have some cards. We'll ask, oh, thank you for that. We'll ask for speakers to come up to the podium, which is set up on the back left side of the room. Starting with Tracy Nguyen.
Are you able to hear me well?
Yep.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Tracy Nguyen, and I am a proud Vietnamese American. I have been a resident of Garden Grove for more than 25 years. My family has owned 3 businesses in Garden Grove, and currently we have 1. As an attorney, I firmly believe in our constitutional rights, whether it be our First Amendment or our Second Amendment or so on. I am asking the city to remove Commissioner Josh Lindsay because based on his words and actions, he has shown that he cannot act in fairness as a governmental actor. This is about many things for me, but I want to focus on the violation of our First Amendment rights and the consequences of his ignorant rhetoric. The way he acted infringed upon our rights. To clarify, our First Amendment right states that the government and government actors cannot prohibit its citizens from exercising their right to free speech and peaceful assembly. Commissioner Lindsay came out under the capacity as commissioner. That is shown in his live stream when he referred to himself as Commissioner Lindsay. As someone in a governmental position, he is held to a higher standard, as it should be. Regardless of his personal views, he should know to respect the First Amendment rights of citizens. The protest was peaceful, as we know, so no one was inciting violence and nobody wanted violence. Looters are looters and peaceful protesters are peaceful protesters. I don't believe it is right for a city official to publicly shame its people. He said in his apology, "Once I realized what I had said, I instantly regretted it. I didn't realize it till late that night when I rewatched it." How does he not know that what he was saying for the duration of a 90-minute video? I want to focus on his face recognition comments. He said, "One of the reasons is I'm trying to get as many faces as I can because I know about this wonderful thing they have called face recognition software." Great stuff. Those words were used as a deterrent. It was used as if there was a threat of some kind of repercussion by city officials. He was criminalizing protesters, although they had not broken any laws. He said in his apology that his words were insensitive and that he would take sensitivity training. His words had a far-reaching impact, more than sensitivity training will fix. Not overnight and not in time for us to feel that he can properly do his job. His job entails advising city council members on laws and ordinances. It is evident he cannot separate his personal views from his job. We are supposed to be able to trust that he can be impartial. His disparaging comments regarding citizens humiliated them and encourages an environment where if we do not agree with him, then we don't have recognized rights. In his apology, Commissioner Lindsay said, "The world is changing, and I need to do my part to be cognizant, learn, and grow. This is my commitment to you." But I want to ask, what is he really saying here? Is he saying that he's always had these kind of views, and now that the world is changing, he realizes he just can't share them publicly? If Commissioner Lindsay truly loves this city, respects the people, wants our city to flourish, and wants to get Garden Grove on the map, I'm imploring him to resign to show his dedication to our city. Take time off, do the work, volunteer, grow meaningful relationships with all kinds of people in this community, and take time to hear us out regardless if you are in agreement with you or not. Earn our trust, then come back. An apology is not enough. He understood the value of his actions and words. And to City Council, I'm asking you to remove him from office if he does not resign. Prove to your constituents that you value and respect our rights. Thank you for hearing me out.
Dakota Hill.
Hi, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
My name is Dakota. I grew up here in Garden Grove. First, I want to recognize the organizers of last week's protest. Sorry, it's my first time speaking. It was a beautiful thing. It was very hot that day, and we had stations set up for water and snacks. And we had 3,000 people show up, and I just wanted to recognize that. Second, I wanted to just point out that we're still in a global health pandemic, and the city does not have a way for people to stay at home and still voice public comments. Other cities have this. Westminster's using Zoom. I think it's silly that at the protest we had armored trucks and helicopters for something peaceful organized by teenagers, but we can't figure out how to set up a Zoom call for this. I think that just is telling that our police is overfunded and we need to reallocate those resources to other parts of the city. And lastly, I want to talk about Commissioner Lindsay. I mean, I'm sure you'll hear more about it today, about his mocking of Black Death, as well as his numerous Facebook posts comparing CDC guidelines to the Holocaust. These are not isolated incidents. He has a history of insensitive and racist comments. I would like to urge Mayor Jones to just add an agenda item to the next meeting to a vote on his resignation. And I also understand that it's not just Commissioner Lindsay. I think that these views and attitudes are held by other people in our city government. And if you know who you are, I would like you to take this time to reflect and hold yourselves accountable, because we'd like to, we demand better behavior from all y'all. Thank you. I yield my time.
Luz Flores.
Hello. It's my first time coming to a city council meeting. I've been a resident of Garden Grove for practically all of my life, well, almost all my life. And last week, I was part of one of the viewers on Facebook that watched Commissioner Josh Lindsay's live stream. And I can just say it was it was unbelievable, all the comments that he was making on a live stream. As a resident of Garden Grove, you know, it hurt that he was making fun of, you know, someone's death. And I don't think you guys should put up with it. I think he should resign. And after he gave his apology on Facebook, he made a public apology on Facebook for everybody to see and everybody to comment. I went ahead and commented on it. And the fact that he went ahead and blocked me just goes to show that he doesn't care about the public's concerns, or he doesn't care, you know, about our views. If our views don't align with him, he just doesn't care. So how is he supposed to lead this community if he shuts down people that don't agree with him? He needs to hear the public out. And if he's unwilling to do that, he needs to resign. And I just hope you guys are able to add this as well to the next meeting's agenda, and I'll, you know, come again. And I just hope if you guys find somebody of color to go ahead and take his place, because I feel like we really need that. We need more representation of someone of color, and I just hope you guys could take that into consideration. Thank you.
Ariana Aresteg.
Okay. Honorable Mayor Jones and the members of the City Council, before I go any further, I want to thank everyone who is here today. We are in the middle of a pandemic, so thank you for those of you who have the privilege of being able to join us. Also, I would like to thank this body for the vote they made in the last session to approve the community workforce agreement, which would bring several jobs in public work projects to Garden Grove. And also thank you for continuing the tradition of lighting the watchtower with rainbow lights in light of Pride Month. Today, I come before you to ask for accountability, and I ask you for transparency. In the last week, every single one of you, even George, who's not here right now, has been contacted by the residents of this city who are expressing their valid and very authentic concern that Planning Commissioner Josh Lindsay is not fit to represent the residents of Garden Grove. And in order to bring action and to bring fairness, I want to outline that there is a formal process for the removal of a commissioner. According to section 2.21.014, the removal statute in the Garden Grove Municipal Code states that if the mayor wishes to remove one of his or her appointees before that appointee's term is expired, this action shall be submitted as a regular agenda item for a vote by the City Council, in which the majority of you would have to agree. Further, Commissioner Lindsay, as defined in the Garden Grove Municipal Code, is a public officer. Further, as this municipal code states, the commissioner must serve in the, quote, public interest, and this must be his primary concern and conduct both his official and private affairs above reproach. That means that whatever he does while he is serving us as a commissioner needs to be unquestionably ethical and untainted. I hope that today, Mayor Jones, you are going to listen to the voices of our residents, such that you will agendize a vote for the removal of Commissioner Lindsay. I also make this request of you. It is apparent that there is a culture in which there's an imbalance of power in Garden Grove, and there is a culture of insensitivity. So I believe, and I request of this body, to consider diversity and bias training for all employees and public officials that are going to be serving our community. This kind of behavior is appalling. Commissioner Lindsay has devoted years of service to our community. That's not in question. He serves as president of Garden Grove Kiwanis. He's done many great things. This is not in question. This is also not an attempt to try to push down his ability of freedom of speech. That is his right. However, he is a sworn public servant and must be upheld to a higher standard. That is the standard he agreed to when he became a commissioner, and we must follow this process and hold him to it. I'm not going to repeat his comments. I'm not going to repeat his fat-shaming remarks. You have received our letters. You have all been made accessible to video. You have heard the people that have come up here and spoken. We even have a petition that is, gosh, maybe about an hour ago, at least 5,800 signatures strong of Garden Grove residents that ask for his resignation, and if he does not resign, his removal. When we made that petition, he had still not issued an apology. He has tendered now an apology, and we have found that that apology is insufficient. I want you to consider that these are not just sound bites, they were consistent statements made out through a 30-minute stream period. He made these comments publicly and shared across various platforms used by at least 10,000 different Garden Grove residents, and this video was viewed thousands of times. Several racist and homophobic statements and comments, or memes, have also been discovered to be shared and made by Commissioner Lindsay. So I want you to take that into account as well, that this has all happened during his time of service. I want you to know that this is not happening from a vacuum. This is a tipping point. Only recently did the residents of Garden Grove get proportional representation through district elections, but there's clearly a power imbalance in our city, as there's still clearly a small group of people that are still controlling the decisions and the directions in which our city is going. Commissioner Lindsay is not the only commissioner that has made disparaging and divisive comments on public platforms to various residents or has tried to silence them as moderators of their Facebook groups. Commissioner Lindsay is just the only one who got caught on tape doing it. So I ask you to look at these numbers because I did the math. Of the sitting 33 commissioners, not including the Downtown Commission or the Measure O Committee, the residents of District 1 make up 27% of all appointed commissioners in our city commissions. That is 9 of them, Commissioner Lindsay included. District 5 only has 15% with 5 appointees, and District 3 only has 12% with 4. Don't get me started on District 6, we only have 1. So why is there this disparity? Who is really controlling the narrative of our city and the decisions that are being made, where our taxpayer dollars are going? I want you to ask yourselves those questions, because you, the City Council, Mayor Jones, you guys are the body that appoints and approves all of these commissioners. So I ask of you, what can you guys do better? Because it's not like there aren't people from other districts that don't want to serve. There are several qualified, amazing individuals. So what can you guys do as a body to make sure that the people that are appointed to serve our community are people that are going to serve it wholly and without prejudice? On a personal note, Commissioner Lindsay, I am a product of the Kiwanis family. I dedicated almost a decade of my life to serving our community, our youth, and developing leaders. I was a 2008 to 2009 Division IV North Lieutenant Governor from Santiago High School. And then in college, I went on to charter a chapter of Circle K International. I was very much looking forward to becoming a Kiwanian here in Garden Grove. Very much so. And these comments, I believe that you do not only owe the residents of Garden Grove an apology, I believe that you owe an apology to all of the sponsored youth leadership members that are represented by your club. I still have a passion for service, and I will be joining Kiwanis, probably not Greater Garden Grove, probably not Kiwanis of Garden Grove, probably Greater Garden Grove, maybe Santa Ana, who knows. But I also want to make it clear that that organization has made their stance on Black Lives Matter very clear. Black Lives Matter. And the call to action on the Kiwanis family has been to serve the community with Black Lives Matter in mind. And I'm glad to have a conversation with you about this at some other time. We are the city of youth and ambition. We are the youth. We are here to talk to you about this, and our ambition is to have a more equal and well-represented city. Thank you.
Amanda Nguyen.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay? My name is Amanda Nguyen, and I'm a resident here in Garden Grove. I'm here today to talk about Planning Commissioner Lindsay's Facebook live stream of a peaceful protest that occurred on June 3rd, 2020. First, I'd like to say that I've never been to a city council meeting before. This is kind of cool. And I also hate public speaking. So it really took a lot for me to come here tonight and to be standing up here talking to all of you guys. But Commissioner Lindsay's comments were so upsetting to me that I decided to come here and speak on the record and discuss why I think he should resign or be removed as planning commissioner. So right now we are undoubtedly in the midst of a life-changing movement that is campaigning against violence and the systemic racism against the Black community. The protest that was held last week was organized by high school students. It has been so uplifting to see young people getting involved in this movement and feeling confident enough to exercise their First Amendment rights. Hearing Commissioner Lindsay mock the protesters that day was so disheartening and made me feel as though he was belittling those who were trying to make positive changes in the world. The protesters out there that day were there to fight racism and to bring awareness to the issues of police brutality, and yet our planning commissioner was following them around, mocking them, and trying to capture every face as possible on his live stream to save for, quote, facial recognition. Commissioner Lindsay commented that we were unable to hold the Strawberry Festival this year due to COVID-19, yet there were all these protesters showing up that day and that he was, quote, not okay with this. What exactly is it that he was not okay with? Residents peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights? He also commented during his live stream that the Garden Grove Police Department was one of the fairest departments around and that he was heartbroken that they had to put up with this. Again, what exactly is this? Commissioner Lindsay's use of the word "this" to refer to protesters made me feel as though he is not one with the community, but instead he views us as an other. His most offensive and disturbing commentary was when he mocked those who were chanting, "I can't breathe," by saying maybe they should sit down if they're having so much trouble breathing. These were the last words of a dying man who were begging for his life and calling for his mother before he died. And here was our planning commissioner mocking those last words on a Facebook live stream to his friends. Why does our planning commissioner think the manner in which Mr. Floyd died is something to joke about? I can't understand why Commissioner Lindsay should and wants to continue to serve the city given his disrespectful tone throughout his live stream for the residents and guests of Garden Grove who showed up that day. When Commissioner Lindsay posted his apology to his Facebook page, I had gone through and liked the comments that I agreed with, which were critical of him. A few minutes later, I realized that Commissioner Lindsay had blocked me on Facebook. This was upsetting to me as a resident here because I felt like I wasn't being heard. As an individual working for the city and the residents of Garden Grove, Commissioner Lindsay should have read and listened to all the comments on his apology, especially the ones that were not in agreement with him, so he can understand why we're so upset. If he cannot accept criticism from the residents of the city, what is he doing in public service? I have seen others defending his comments, saying that he was just joking and that he deserves a second chance, but I don't think we should take his comments lightly. That type of apathy and refusal to act upon intolerant behavior contributes to the systemic racism that persists today. In his apology, Commissioner Lindsay reduced his own comments to a few sound bites, which makes me feel as though he is not fully accepting responsibility for his comments, and he also doesn't understand the magnitude of the effect it had. I hope that Commissioner Lindsay will resign, and as Tracy said, take some time, to listen to the residents. I know that you're here tonight to defend yourself, and I just want to say that your comments were really offensive, and I don't understand why you're blocking everyone who were just liking comments that were in opposition to you. We weren't even saying anything negative. If you work for the city and you work here for us, why don't you want to hear us out? That's all I want to say, and that's why I came here tonight. So thank you for listening.
Josh Lindsay.
Council, thank you for having me here tonight. Everybody in the audience, I hear what you're saying.
I truly heard and hear what you're saying. There's a couple of people that, yes, I may
Please,
block.
well, I'm sorry, please address us.
Sorry. There is a couple of people that, yes, I did block in the beginning. Then I decided that I didn't want to block anybody, and I let every single comment that every single person made and left them on my page. I went through every change.org comment that was left about me and every other platform that I could see. And they cut like a knife. With everything that I've given to this community and for the last 15 years, I have done nothing but try to give to this community all that I have. Anytime there's anything that needs to be done, I step right up and do it. For that reason is the reason why I haven't resigned. There's still so much more that I want to do and I want to give to this community. I hear what everybody is saying and I understand and I accept what you were saying. I had a prepared statement that I was going to bring. I chose not to because I'm a builder. I'm not a language guy. I'm not a guy that plays on words or anything else. What everybody has had to deal with because of my Facebook Live comments, it just drives me, and I haven't been able to sleep for really anything this whole entire time. My hope is to use what I did as a learning tool and build off of it and grow off of it and become more and serve all of you guys and you guys the best that I can. That's my hope. So with that, I do hear you guys and I do understand you, and I truly, truly am sorry for the words that I have said that have hurt any of you. I really am. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Craig Durfee. Really quick, I'm sorry, Craig, to cut you off, but just really quick, if there's anyone else wishing to speak, please make sure to turn in your pink card to the city clerk over here to my right. Thank you. Go ahead, Craig.
I'd like to introduce myself to those who don't know me. My name is Craig Durfee, founder for 23 years for Parents' Right for Children's Children and a son with autism. Today, you're talking about a great historic event in our country. Let's go back in the LA Times and the red shirt when I was talking about mentally ill being killed by police. Let's go back to when autism wasn't understood and when they picked them up. I have written legislation. It'll be in the dispatch to train. Let's understand, police have a tough job, and I've been behind them all the time. We just need to increase the understanding and training, and communication is essential to our community. Now let's get to the comment period. Mayor and the council, I'm asking for continuation, the same fair treatment in the public comment from 3 to 5 minutes. So that being there, I have a website, socialemotionalpause.org. Socialemotionalpause.org is well received in the United States internationally. I'd like to quote a few authors. Winston Churchill, it's fine to be honest, but is it also very important to be right? The other one is Franklin D. Roosevelt. The only sure bulwark of continued liberty is government strong enough to protect the interests of the people, and the people strong enough and well enough to form to maintain a sovereign control of the government. Right. And the last one, let me come home my cane here, is the quote from U.S. President Ronald Reagan. There's no easy answers, but there are simple answers. We must have the courage to do what's right and know what's morally right. That's my organization, and I'm telling you tonight that the commander of 555 Midwest City will not change his position on a Congressional Medal of Honor. There's too many of them. I represent the organization. I've been given command of that. I have 11716 at Quicksilver. Let's not rewrite the history. We have a huge, on my website, 3 sections. Why? And Pentecost Pilton, first female who went to the toughest military, did 100 missions. And there is a whole lot of our police departments and fire committing suicide from PTSD. We have to understand, when our children, as I knew about Lassie come home of Roy Rogers and Mr. Ed, we learned up to the understanding of empathy and compassion for others. Let's not deteriorate that. And the funding issue has been really confusing. You could go to Fountain Valley and a private corporation funded their park for a memorial. Oh yes, in Denver, a federal bill. What I see of the city, and I hear of the question if there's another organization running the city, I was told personally, you're not going to get it on the agenda. So there is. And I'm tired of it. And I wrote to you, and I'm costing you're in a serious liability issues, and I've discussed it in your finance department issue of the finance. And we need an activation commission. I wrote that and gave you reasons why it had an ordinance, because we need to advance the traffic commission. It's not on top of things. I gave the research, and they have no clue. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I've become an expert at this. And I'd like to see, let's not diminish our heritage of our Purple Heart Mayor that you were a part of the Mayor Dalton. Let's not forget Commander Lieutenant Donald Gary. We have the red shirts. Where are we in this city and our culture? And as it continues to starve away our ability to function as a city, I don't see anybody actually writing grants for that purpose to save our city from going bonkers. Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to get my hands here.
Thank you. Nick Dibbs.
Mayor Jones, members of the council, my name is Nicholas Dibbs. First off, it's good to see you in person for a change. I spoke out at this council meetings in person in the chambers, and you weren't there, but except by voice. So good to see you in person. Thank you. Why are we here? Most people come to these council meetings, they join commissions or volunteer or do whatever they can. Why? Why are we here? To help bring much needed positive change so that when we leave this earth, we hopefully leave it a little better than we found it, and to help make our community better for the next generations of children that come up. Now, at the last council meeting was Tuesday, May 26th. The murder of George Floyd was the day before, on Monday, the 25th. And because of the extensive importance of the issue, I submitted to the clerk 14 attachments that you can read, which includes Dr. Martin Luther King's Beyond Vietnam speech, as well as mental health wellness resources and websites. One of those attachments didn't make it in, so it's been resubmitted for tonight. So I encourage the citizens of Garden Grove to go to the city's website and look up public comments for May 26th and see the attachments that are there with all kinds of resources to help parents, students, and community members and citizens. On Sunday, June 7th, the Orange County Register on the front page mentions Dr. Martin Luther King in this article on the front page, Chaos or Community, and mentions King's last book titled, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. And it says in the article that the issues that King brought up back in 1967 and 68 and before that, until he was assassinated in 68, are many of the same issues that we're dealing with Black Lives Matter, with the racism and unfairness in our society. So we're here to bring positive change. I alert you to that article mentioning Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and refer you to his speech 1 year to the day before he was assassinated on April the 4th, 1967, titled Beyond Vietnam. And that speech or parts of it apply today in the quest for justice and liberty and equality just as much back then as it does now. And he says in his speech, a time comes when silence is betrayal. A time comes when silence is betrayal. And I think the people here in this room don't want to be silent. That's why they're here. And he ends the speech by saying, And if we will only make the right choice, we will be able to transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of peace. If we will make the right choice, we will be able to transform the gangling discords of our world into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. If we will but make the right choice, we will be able to speed up the day all over America and all over the world, when justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Thank you for listening. I assume my time's up, is that correct?
Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, any other speakers that have not yet submitted a card? Okay, thank you. We will close oral communications. That takes us on next to...
Mayor Jones, can I
Yes.
interrupt for just a second?
Oh, please, yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did want to read the list of names of people who submitted
Right.
emails. We did receive 3 separate emails from Mr. Craig Durfee. He's requesting to agendize the city's Purple Heart recognition to our veterans and war dogs. He's requesting to agendize to consider 2 crosswalks from Acacia crossing Nelson Street. And he's requesting to agendize a war dog memorial. The next set of emails that we received and were forwarded to the City Council and to the Mayor is a total of 13 people demanding restructuring of the city budget. That is from Alicia Garcia, Emily Kim, Heather Kim, Chris, and sorry if I mispronounce your names, Chris Desracius, Sharon Wen, Adrian Huizar, Jacqueline Doe, Nicholas Velasco, Alexa Guerrero, Megan Thurston, Brianna Castrejon, Ten Pham, Alan Bram. And 1 email was in support for increase of police department budget for training and oversight, and that was from Alan Duong. I also have a very long list of names, a total of 200 people emailed, 199 people emailed regarding Planning Commissioner Josh Lindsay and a petition for his removal. The first email was from Concerned Citizens. Number 2 is David Caldwell, Madison Griffith, Andrew Corey Chenault, Alfredo Garcia, Johnny Tran, Kadisha Abarub, Arceli Kempis, Angelica Toe, Isabel Ortiz, Carol Calapine, Ann Tu Liu, Kara Ford, Janelle Augustin, Tracy Dow, David Epps, Michelle Nguyen, Helene Vo, Emily Nguyen, Nancy Bui, Amanda Nguyen, Catherine Williams, Daniel Jimenez, Laura Castaneda, Jessica Castaneda, Jean No, Michael Kramer, Mike Negrete, Tammy Liu, Michelle Salcido, Nathan Corey, Charlie Nguyen, Jacqueline Nguyen, Jennifer Schneip, Inez Cardona Alvarez, Reina Lopez, Marlene Garcia, Jenny Truong, Mai Vo Long, Catherine Fries, Caitlin Rear, Carmen Bravo, Adriana Torres, Melissa Tran, Natalie Lee, Justin Hogate, Rachel Tang, Allison Hernandez, Amber Ryder, Lisa Dang, Alexis Gonzalez Corona, Leslie Reed, Vicki Wen, Natalie Wen, Sarah Thompson, Amar Salah, Mariko Takahashi, Brixton McKinney, Annie Dang, Jennifer Rosales, Sabrina Bola, Mark Jason Raymond, Ori Nguyen, Fong Lam, Spencer Graham Kimura, Jennifer Brito, Sheila Fong, Kirsten Adams, Stephanie Roldan, Kyle Adams, Victoria Trong, Rachel Dean, Dorothy Doan, Thomas Wen, Erica Higbee, Peter McMaster, Aaron Yarborough, Kimberly Liu, Darian Manago, Hector Hernandez, Amy Park, Joshua Kramer, Jennifer Doe, Ethan Dow, Lynn Fong, Aisha Shaw, Nicole Mesquite, Vincent Tai, Annie No, Zachary Tamavonsky, Michael Brito, Roser V. Hong, Vicky Vu, Angela Alonso, Kylie Stout Mayer, Brittany Quach, Kristen Natividad, Emily Rittenhouse, Ryan Tran, McKenna Kurse, Kalpa Semashing, Sarah Perry, Vanessa Small, Taryn Allen, Meredith G. Itzania Delgado Tufino, Mindy Nui, Austin Tran, Veronica De La Cruz, Janice Yun, Lindsay McNamara, Corinne Van Riper, Christopher Bianco, Lindsay Chow, Yi-Chan Choi, Isabel Roca, Matthew Warren, Anna Vu, Jillian Madden, Yvette Arola, Anthony Kim, Connor Fulps, Sydney Bowie, Dana Peasy, Monica Mendoza, Bailey Disler, Joaquin Anthony Reynoso Jr., Brianna Castrajon, Anthony Fulps, Jessica Mendoza, Tanya Judge Serrano, Eliana Pinzon, Eric Tran, Ruth Guevara, Victor Contreras, Sabrina Bola, that might have been a repeat, Tammy Nguyen, Daniel Duarte, Kimberly Ho, Nathan Wen, Ariana Estegui, sorry, I mispronounced your name, Joshua Kramer, Julie Rojas, John Griffith, Dakota Hill, Daniel Pantoja, Terrence Lung, Jenna Butts, Benson Quang, Susan Martinez, Chi Nguyen, Nancy No, Sarah Flores, Rebecca Pasillas, Teresa Fan, Vivian Lopez, Isaac Tiburcio, Madison Berga, Vin Vu, Chris Suwetsky, Jennifer Weinberg, Corinne Van Riper, I think that was a repeat as well, Dylan Janoka, Jessica Mendoza, Tracy Wen, Jessica Howell, Ann Pham, Daniel Kramer, Robert Salazar, Alejandro Cruz, Yariela Ruiz Montez, Then Pham, Julie Wen, Claire Flores, Joshua Peacock, Jessica Mesa, Lynette Alvarado, Lynette Sabiha Khan, Dakota Gainers, Tanya Wong, David Peterson, Nicole Dew, Jonathan Ringel, Martha Sanchez, Shaista Azad, Don Thurston, Adrian Melendez, Terry Wen, Sarah Perry, Christopher Adams, Jessica Grace Howell, Tanya Pantoja, Robin Blanchard, Roger Wen, Inez Cordona Alvarez, and Nicole Wilbur. There was one email that was sent in support of maintaining Mr. Lindsay on the Planning Commission, and that was from Mr. James Webb. And that's all I have, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I also understand we had one more speaker trying to speak, which is Daisy Perez, who is on the, well, there you are. Okay. Go ahead. You can do the card later, but go ahead and speak because we were just about to wrap it up. I'm sorry, you have to go over here to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Daisy Perez. I am a resident of Ward 5, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission. Sorry, I just ran in here. I am not here today to speak whether Commissioner Lindsay should be removed from the Planning Commission. That is not my decision to make, nor will I comment on it. That is the decision of the City Council, and I will leave that up to you to decide. What I am here to speak on is the Planning Commission itself. As a young woman of color, I thought I was going to step up in that role as being the only person of the color in the Planning Commission, I'm sorry. But I was actually pleasantly surprised. If any of you have actually attended the Planning Commission meetings, the Planning Commission is actually extremely diverse. We have representatives of Mexican American descent, Vietnamese Americans, and white Americans. It is actually very representative of the population of the city. And for that, I commend the mayor and council, and I thank you not only for appointing me, but for appointing my fellow commissioners. As a group, we get along very well, and I think we actually have a really good bond, and it's something very special that we have. And I would like to invite all of the members of the public, not just those that are here today, but the ones that are watching at the meeting right now, and will hear this later, to attend the Planning Commission meetings. We speak on various issues, and there are some issues that we make decisions on without ever coming to the City Council. And so I would ask that for those of you that are looking to make change, not only should you attend those meetings and provide your comments, but apply to be commissioners yourself. I know the City Council is always looking for new commissioners, and I was not the only new commissioner that was appointed during this last round. There were several new members. And I know a lot of the council members will tell you that they are always soliciting new commissioners. So that opportunity is available to all residents of Garden Grove, and I would ask that you all look into that if you are looking to be more involved in your community. Lastly, if any of you watched the last commission meeting, one of the items that we talked about was a cellular tower at a nearby church. If you watched the meeting, you will see that myself and Commissioner Lindsay were the only two commissioners that really commented on that. And Commissioner Lindsay was advocating and looking out for families and children of Garden Grove. So I ask that you make this decision based off of all of the information and that you take into account the actual commissioner that Commissioner Lindsay is. Lastly, I think that the City Council should work to make all commissioners accountable for their actions and take more measures in place. We do have an annual ethics training that we attend and we certify with our attorney, but I do think that the council can do more and add additional measures in place for all commissioners. Those are all the comments I have, and thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Daisy. Before we close, is there anyone else who has not yet submitted a card that's wishing to speak? Okay, thank you. We will close oral communications, and next we will recess and go to the successor agency. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll?
Member Bridegan?
Here.
Member O'Neill?
Here.
Member Deidre Nguyen? Here. Member Klompenstein?
Here.
Member Kim Nguyen?
Here.
Vice Chair Bowie?
Here.
And Chair Jones?
Here. We already did oral communication simultaneously with the other legislative bodies. Takes us on to consent items. It's just 2A, which is receive and file of the meeting minutes from May 26th.
Second. George moved it. I seconded it.
Got a motion, a second. Roll call vote, please.
Member Bridegan?
Yes.
Member O'Neill?
Yes.
Member Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Klompenstein?
Yes.
Member Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bowie?
Yes.
Chair Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Okay, any matters from successor agency members? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we will adjourn that. Are there any other outside agencies, or that's it tonight, right? No sanitary. Okay. So we will adjourn and go back to City Council, reconvene City Council. That takes us on to consent items. It's recommended that items 3A through 3J be acted on simultaneously unless anyone wishes to pull any items. Colleagues, are there any items on the consent calendar which you would like to pull?
I'll motion to approve the balance, and I just want to highlight 3A, a new proclamation to celebrate Juneteenth. I'll second.
Motion a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bridegan?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen? Yes. Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Klompenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill,
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. That concludes consent items. We do have public hearings and then items coming up. I'd like to ask, can we take a quick 5-minute break?
Chaotic destruction. That can't-
If I may please recapture everyone's attention, we will reconvene the meeting.
Yeah.
After that break, we still have some business to attend to, so we want to dive right back in and get going again. So we reconvene. We'll go to item 4, public hearings. We do have a couple different ones, so we'll start with item 4A.
Item 4A is adoption of a resolution to confirm the annual levy of fiscal year 2020-21 assessment for the Downtown Assessment District, and Mr. Murray is here to give the report.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy. Mr. Mayor, members of council. Tonight, we have the final step in establishing the annual assessment for the Downtown Assessment District for fiscal year 2021. The assessment remains the same from the previous year, and expenditures will also remain the same. In accordance with the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972, the remaining action for the City Council is to hold a public hearing and to adopt the resolution confirming the assessments for the district. All information will be forwarded to the county assessor for collection of the assessments. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions or comments from Bill before we open the public hearing? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so we will go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on 4A? Craig, go ahead.
Based on my lot of thousands of hours of research and public records requests of OCDA and of the city, I see that we put a lot of time and energy with the active downtown plan, and I see that there is potential with the current conditions that we're in economically, but I also see that the negative side of the lack of the chart of the financing of grant opportunities to write. And I think this financial district should offset some of the loss by helping pay for the $300,000 for the master plan, and contribute to a master grant writer in that district to move forward, because it's clearly identified as the core base of their money that was expended to bring a circulation and to move the trail up to Berkhurst. There's no need to waste in time. We need to implement this in the financial picture of it. Someone has to pay for it. And since we spent the money for them to have a master plan, we need to have them include the cost for a grant writer and to pay for it for the movement to the designed plan as our park plan. And I hope that you will understand this document clearly shows 6 E's of safety, and you're not meeting it. So I'm encouraged the council to be mindful of my document asking for a active transportation commission like Palo Alto and Comosa Mesa. You need some guidance so you can move forward and minimize the potential liability of 6 E's. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Dibbs, regarding item 4A, Downtown Assessment District.
Mayor Jones, members of the council, my name is Nicholas Dibbs. I want to comment in regard to the economic revitalization of the downtown area, specifically Main Street, and I'm assuming Main Street's included in the assessment district. Main Street is a special place, but lately it's been kind of a ghost town. And I just want to encourage the council to consider amending the plan at some point, or amending to allow the restaurants and the businesses to flourish there on Main Street, and having some tables outside, but beyond the limited permit process for having outdoor dining, make it a permanent thing so that those businesses can have outdoor dining in the spring and summer and fall when the weather is nice. And consider doing what Long Beach has done, which is they will take a section of a street similar in length to Main Street and not have cars there, just have people being able to walk around. And there's parking that can be adjacent already there where people can park. Perhaps it could be done on certain days. if not 7 days a week. So that, I just would like the council to be thinking about revitalizing the Main Street area to help bring more people in, events, programs, and for these events, cutting off, just having Main Street where you can walk around when these events are going on, or possibly all year round. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on 4A? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, I believe you have some verbiage you want to read into the record.
I do. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, at this time, I would like to enter into the record the following information. As of 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, the City Clerk's office received a total of 0 protests. Since 5:30 p.m., no additional protests were received. There are 30 parcels in the Downtown Assessment District. As a result, there has not been a submittal of a majority protest.
Thank you. With that, we will close the public hearing and go to our own deliberations. Colleagues?
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Did you catch that? We have a motion and a second.
George and
Yeah.
Councilmember
From across the room. Please call for roll call vote.
Councilmember Reddigan?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie. Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. That takes us on to public hearing, item 4B.
Item 4B is adoption of resolutions confirming the annual levy of fiscal year 2020-21 assessment for the Garden Grove Street Lighting District, Garden Grove Street Lighting District number 99-1, and Garden Grove Park Maintenance District. And Mr. Murray is here to give the report.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. Tonight, the City Council is asked to hold a public hearing for the city's street lighting and park maintenance districts, and to adopt resolutions for the collection of assessments for both those districts. The public hearing are required by law, and their purpose is to hear testimony on the matter of annual assessments. Once the hearing are complete, the resolutions may be adopted. Should the resolutions pass, the required information will be forwarded to the county assessor for collections of the assessments. The assessments will raise approximately $1.3 million in street lighting revenue and $700,000 in park maintenance revenue. There are no new increases in the assessment rates from the last fiscal year. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions of Mr. Murray regarding the street lighting and park maintenance district assessment? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Any comments, public comments regarding this particular item? Regarding this item? Okay, go ahead. This is street lighting district and park maintenance district.
The purpose to speak on this is about the safety of the 6Es and the lighting of the amber lighting this week. Occasion and Nelson, I put out a request to evaluate it, the council for a report, because I was there. The lighting is very deficient and it's flat for safety, and SCAG agrees with me. You could change the light bulbs in the areas that are the majority of your recommendations for usage of Occasion and Main Street. I called Edison because Edison says that the council can fix the trail that the mayor started on Nelson to Lamson. It's dark for 6 months. It's a battery operated, I understand, and they're willing to work with you. We need to understand the climate change and lowering the wattage in the yellow light is not being visible in that area, and so other areas. I would ask the council to think about where you want to have the most visibility and minimize the risk for your safety of your public and your liability. So while you're doing this, be mindful of the type of corridor of brightness and the visibility, because right now it's zero. I had eyesight of people I couldn't barely see around that curve from Gargo Boulevard to Acacia on Nelson. It's a death trap, and I'm not happy, and I'm asking to do something about it. So fix the light bulbs along Acacia to Main Street and at Nelson and that area for people to be seen, a much more intense, brighter, so that people can wear clothing that's visible with LED for the sake of your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others wishing to speak on this particular item? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, do you have verbiage on this particular item also?
I have.
Please go ahead.
3. So, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, at this time, I would like to enter into the record the following information. As of 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, the City Clerk's office received a total of 0 protests. Since 5:30 p.m., no additional protests were received. There are 35,085 parcels in the Garden Grove Street Lighting District. As a result, there has not been a submittal of a majority protest.
Thank you.
As of 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, the City Clerk's office received a total of 0 protests for District 99-1, and since 5:30 p.m., no additional protests were received. There are 349 parcels in District 99-1, and as a result, there has not been a submittal of a majority of protests. And last but not least is the Park Maintenance District. So at this time, I would like to enter into the record the following information. As of 5:30 p.m., Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, the City Clerk's office received a total of 0 protests. Since 5:30 p.m., no additional protests were received. There are 35,675 parcels in the city's Park Maintenance District. As a result, there has not been a submittal of a majority protest. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we will close the public hearing. Colleagues?
Move approval.
Second.
O'Neill, Bowie. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brightigam?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Klompenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us on to item 5, items for consideration. We do have several, so we'll start with item 5A.
Item 5A is adoption of a resolution ratifying the city manager, director of emergency services proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency and a curfew due to civil unrest, and Mr. Sandoval is here to give the report.
Mayor, members of the City Council, before you is a resolution ratifying and confirming the existence of a local emergency, declaring the emergency and a curfew due to civil unrest. On May 25th, 2020, Mr. George Floyd tragically died while being arrested in Minnesota by a Minnesota police officer, and his death gave rise to protests that unfortunately have turned violent over time. Protests in Los Angeles, its suburbs, including Long Beach, Santa Monica, and Santa Ana as well. Those protests turned violent with fires and looting and other civil unrest. Forward to June 3rd, 2020, a protest was announced on social media for the city of Garden Grove. In response to that, in preparation for that, our police department asked for a curfew, and therefore the city manager, as the director of emergency services, declared a local emergency and established a short curfew for 2 days, starting on June 2nd from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. the next day, and then June 3rd from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. on the next day. I want to be clear that the curfews were only for those 2 days, and we no longer have a curfew. Those curfews came and went and have not been extended or reestablished. Under the municipal code and state law, the city manager, as director of of emergency services, has the authority to call a local emergency. However, the city council has to, within 7 days, to review that proclamation and to confirm it and ratify it. We know that the protests in the last few days have all been peaceful, and so many will question whether it's appropriate to continue with the local emergency. Our plan was to bring back in 2 weeks at your next meeting another agenda item for you to review the existence of the circumstances that gave rise to this local emergency, and at that time, give the council the opportunity to terminate the local emergency for civil unrest. If the city council wishes to make the findings that the circumstances no longer exist, you can adopt this resolution ratifying the actions of the city manager and terminating the local emergency at a specific date, including today, if that's what the council wishes to do. But again, our plan was to review it in 2 weeks, and at that time, we may even recommend that the city council terminate the local emergency. We know that 2 days ago, our police department did provide mutual aid to adjacent cities that were having protests, although in the end, those protests ended up being peaceful. The issue is that we didn't know, given the destruction that occurred in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, Long Beach, and not just in California, but in the Southland, but also in other parts of the state and in other states, in other metropolitan areas. So before you is a resolution that simply ratifies the action of the city manager calling a local emergency for civil unrest. It does not extend the curfew. It merely confirms the local emergency. And again, our plan is to come back at your next meeting for you to reconsider whether to continue the local emergency or whether to terminate it at that time. That is the staff report, and the recommendation is for you to adopt the resolution that's attached to your staff report. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Omar on this? No? Motion?
I've got a comment. I want to commend our city manager for issuing this order in our stead. Quite frankly, the picture was kind of bleak prior to that. We were seeing on the news all kinds of craziness, and I really think it was a necessary thing to do at the time. Fortunately for us, it had kind of calmed down prior to coming, into Garden Grove and whatnot. But, I think you made a wise choice in issuing that order. I'll make a motion. Approve.
Motion, second by Tu Ha Nguyen. Please call for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Brightingham.
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie.
Yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill.
Yes.
And Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, item 5B.
Item 5B is approval to enter into an agreement with CDCE Inc. and appropriate funding to purchase Panasonic Toughbook CF33 mobile computer terminals for police vehicles, and the chief is here to give the report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. The Garden Grove Police Department is seeking approval of an agreement with CDCE Incorporated and to approve appropriation of funding for the purchase and installation of Panasonic Toughbook mobile computer terminals, other known as MCTs, and related equipment to replace the current solution in the police vehicle fleet. The police department's current inventories of MCTs were acquired almost 6 years ago, along with a 5-year warranty. MCTs are operated around the clock within the police vehicles that experience varying temperatures. In 2019, the police department evaluated several MCT solutions, and the highest rated solution was a Panasonic Toughbook CF33. This solution was tested in 3 different vehicles over the course of the year. After field testing, the Panasonic Toughbook CF33 was identified as the best solution for the police department's needs. The Panasonic Toughbook CF33 exceeds the U.S. Department of Defense standards for durability in mobile devices. Panasonic's rigorous testing and quality control proves that their product will be able to endure in the patrol car environment. CDCE Incorporated is located in Yorba Linda and will provide on-site service and repair calls, as well as pickup and delivery of any computer sent out for repair for the length of the 5-year warranty. This arrangement will make the downtime of any computer minimal. They were also responsible for the install of our last system and are familiar with the cabling design in the police vehicles. More importantly, they have a proven track record of excellent customer service over the last 6 years with the police department. One of the cost-saving measures is that the new computer mounts will not need to be purchased. CDCE Incorporated, the reseller and installer of the product, will engineer a device which will allow the reuse of the computer mounts in the vehicle. The fact that the new mounts will not be needed will save over $20,000. Also, Panasonic will load the required software configuration on each computer before it is shipped from the factory. This will save the IT department countless hours of work. The City of Brea recently solicited bids through a request for bids process and subsequently awarded a purchase order contract to CDCE Incorporated for a Panasonic Toughbook CF33 in-car computer solution and installation. The Garden Grove Police Department recommends use of cooperative purchasing agreement on the City of Brea's purchase order contract with CDCE Incorporated to ensure goods and services at the same unit price as specified in the contract. The Police Department requests that Public Safety Restricted SLESA funds 226 be appropriated for and allocated for this project in the amount of $413,066.44. Of this amount, $374,513.57 will cover 68 computer solutions, a 5-year warranty on each, mounting devices, and installation fees. The remaining $38,552.87 will cover 7 computer solutions and associated costs for vehicles added to the police department fleet last year. The purchase of the 7 computer solutions were previously approved by the City Council at the time the vehicle purchases were approved. It is recommended that the City Council approve the purchase of Panasonic Toughbook CF33 in-car computers and related mounting equipment for patrol vehicles through CDC Incorporated, appropriate $413,066.44 from SLESA funds, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. This is the end of my staff report, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Colleagues, Kim, go ahead.
More comment than question. I just want to point out that these are safety restricted SLESA funds specific for this use, so appropriating that money for that is appropriate. Number 2, on the countless ride-alongs that I've done for a 12-hour period, I cannot count the number of times that my partner, because I was with them, had to reboot the system and start over again, which delayed our ability to respond to calls. It was really frustrating as, I'm seeing this happen, a very serious calls coming in, and the computer just shuts down and they have to boot up and re-log in. So I'm hoping that this solves that problem for them. I think it's critical when you're responding to calls and the safety of our residents are concerned, and the reason why they're getting there delayed is because the system shut down. So I hope that this resolves that, and I motion to approve.
Quick question, Chief. Can you clarify for me, just curious, the $400,000 for 68 computer, which translates to roughly about $6,000? Does that include both the hardware and the software on this computer, or just the hardware, just the laptop alone?
So it will cover the hardwire, and it'll also cover the mounting equipment. So we are not repairing or replacing the mounting system that we currently have in it, and it's not designed for that computer. So it will cover that. They will specifically make a device that we can, for cost-saving efforts, mount the computer system onto the current mounts that are inside the vehicle. It'll also cover installation and any wiring as well.
I see. That makes a lot of sense, because this Toughbook computer is the military standard notebook, and so it is a little more expensive than just a regular workstation, let alone the simple laptop that people use every day. But even with that, it's still, people need to understand that this is more than just a laptop, because it have to come with specialty mounting hardware, which they sell in low volume, and then also additional hard wiring that they need to do to rectify it. So thank you for clarifying that for us. I have no more question.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor, one.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm taking that off. This approves for the hardware. Does this also cover the software for the system?
Yeah, they will install the software before it even gets shipped to us. So out of the factory, they will install the software for us. So it's going to save time with our IT department as well.
And it's already compatible with our communications?
Yes, it will be. We've worked with our IT department on this and specifically made sure that that was going to happen. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have a motion and a second.
I'll move.
Okay. We already do. So, Madam Clerk, please roll call vote.
Councilmember Brightigam?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes. And if I could bother you for just a minute to find out who was the first and who was the second.
It was at that end.
Kim Nguyen was the motion, and I believe Stephanie Klopfenstein was the second.
Thank you.
They were way at the other table.
You can't see our lips moving with the mask on?
That takes us on to item 5C.
Item 5C is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance for the paramedic tax override rate for fiscal year 2020-21. And this ordinance is entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove Establishing the Amount of Money for Paramedic Services that must be raised by an ad valorem tax override and the setting of the tax rate of said override. And Ms. Song is here to give the report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. The item before you is an ordinance to set the paramedic tax override rate for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. The rate remains the same as the previous year. In 1974, Garden Grove residents approved a property tax increase to help fund the ongoing costs for emergency paramedic services to the community. The ballot measure set a limit to this tax override at 10 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The paramedic property tax override has been set by the city and levied by the County Auditor's Controller's Office since 1978. In order to continue and maintain the paramedic services, currently through Orange County Fire Authority, it is necessary to continue to levy this tax on the taxable properties within the city's limit. In June 2017, the City Council set the tax rate at 8 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. This rate stays unchanged for next fiscal year. The ordinance before you authorized the property tax override for paramedic services. This is an annual process required by the state code and the county to enable the city to collect this tax. It is estimated that for fiscal year 2020 to 21, the paramedic tax will generate approximately $12.5 million. This amount will be paid to the OCFA to provide for our community the paramedic services. We recommend that the City Council introduce and conduct the first reading of the attached ordinance authorizing a property tax override of 8 cents per $100 of assessed value for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 paramedic program. And this concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
I have some question, Mayor.
Please go ahead, Councilmember.
I remember a few months ago, we went over the paramedic services that, with the move to OCFA, those paramedic stations doesn't, have office in Garden Grove anymore, but, being moved outside of Garden Grove. With the Garden Grove residents continue to pay for the services, why can't we, require that the services will remain inside in the boundary of our city limit?
Well,
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
This tax override is for paramedic services, not for ambulance. So
For paramedic?
This is for OCF. We pay OCFA with these funds, not ambulance.
So So when we pay this to OCFA, this is for OCFA personnel to, let's say, rush to the scene to provide services?
Yes.
And
So
then,
this
then
is
after that, they will then, if they need to have ambulance services, then they will contact ambulance services and the resident will directly pay for ambulance services. Is that correct understanding?
yeah, the ambulance service is separate from the OCFA services, and this override is we're only using it for OCFA services.
Okay. So who pay for the care ambulance?
Normally, I believe that they charge insurance or they charge the patient.
Yeah, the city does not pay for the ambulance services.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it. That clarified my question. Thank you.
I have a question. Was this factored into the original contract for when we merged into OCFA, that we would continue this tax as part of the methodology for paying that contract?
If I heard you correctly, Mr. Brightingham, this is part of the OCFA contract, so it does not matter if we have this paramedic tax or not. We are contracted with OCFA to provide fire protection and paramedic services. So the money we collected on this tax override will become part of the contribution that we make to OCFA to continue our services.
This was factored in as part of the payment methodology then?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brightingham.
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie.
Yeah, yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
All right, thank you. That concludes items for consideration. Takes us on to matters. And we do actually have several things listed. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. So we'll start out with item 6B.
6B or 6A?
6B. I said I'm going to go out a little bit out of order. So 6B, discussion on recognizing sworn and civilian essential employees for COVID-19 services as requested by Councilmember Brightingham.
So basically in my, logic, I've noticed our city employees, sworn and civilian, going above and beyond in the course of this COVID pandemic, showing up to work, taking many risks to ensure public safety and city services are continued, not just by the police and fire, but also many civilians who are constantly, putting themselves at risk to make sure our community has everything they need. So I thought to myself, it would be appropriate to establish a COVID ribbon, kind of like, I don't know, is the chief still here? I don't know.
He's out.
Oh, he's out there. Anyway, kind of like what the police officers would wear on their uniform, or you'd see a military veteran wear on their uniform. Establish a council-authorized COVID ribbon for our first responders, both sworn and civilian essential employees, and authorize our employees to wear it. So that's kind of my thoughts. I thought I'd bring that out for discussion and see if there was any opposition to that.
Thank you. Any thoughts or any comments?
Yes, I would like to commend Councilman Brightingham for bringing this up. Throughout the last couple of months, we have seen many community organizations, business, religious as well. Many of them have independently, expressed their appreciation to city staff, especially those in the front line. By providing lunch and other things to the people in the hospital, the Garden Grove Hospital, as well to our firefighters, our police, and also to city staff at the city halls. I think the community do recognize that we have done a lot for the community, and they really appreciate that. I think it's about time for the city ourselves to recognize staff, and I commend Councilman Bradingham for bringing this forward. I would really hope that we all will agree to do this, to recognize our city staff.
Thank you.
I was just going to also comment quickly, Councilmember Bargingham. I think it's a great idea. I appreciate you bringing the gesture forward, and I support it.
Yeah, I would support this too. I mean, when this, started and all the essential workers are out there, there started to be discussion about premium pay or hazard pay. And don't get me wrong, anybody that's put in a hazardous condition while they're at work should be paid extra if it's above and beyond and it's a hazard. But most of the people, like our heroes, some people called a hazard pay hero pay. Well, I said, well, I disagree a little bit. Heroes don't go in there looking for pay. They go in there to help and do what's right. So anytime we can compliment somebody for going above and beyond, I'm there to help do it. So, thanks.
And
thank you.
Council members, if I could just chime in for a quick second, I think this is a terrific idea by Councilman Breitigam, and something, I think merits a lot of consideration. We'd like to put something together, maybe consult with some of our folks internally and come up with some good ideas to do exactly what the councilman is suggesting. So I'd love to work on this and then and bring back pretty quickly some thoughts that we think might work for everybody.
I personally thought it would be a good application and, carry a little bit more weight if it was formally voted on by this council for the city staff to proceed with coming up with that type of an award.
Thank you. Wonderful idea, Councilman Breitigam, and thank you for taking the lead and bringing this up. I think we're all behind you on it. Does this require a vote? Or can we do a vote?
Under your policies and procedures, if you want an action item at the next meeting or on future meeting, yes, it would require a vote to agendize it for action.
Well, I guess we'll agendize it for the next meeting then, if possible. If I can get a second.
I'll second.
Second. Okay, good. Definitely second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Breitigam?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, we'll go to item 6C, and this is a discussion on naming the pedestrian and bike trail the Congressional Medal of Honor Bike Trail and Park, as requested by Council Members Breitigam and Councilmember Bowie.
So, again, our city is really unique in the fact that we have 3 Congressional Medal of Honor winners in a city a size of under 200,000 people. That's really an anomaly. But it's a testament to our community and our ethics. And so we have this new bike trail park going into the city. It's going to add some park space. And, right now, currently, it's without a name. And my thought process, again, was what better name than Congressional Medal of Honor Park and Bike Trail? It would also kind of help facilitate getting federal grants, kind of on the backside of, for improving our parks. And I think we honor our Congressional Medal of Honor winners. Commander Donald Gary received the Congressional Medal of Honor in 1945. Tibor Rubin received it in 1950. And most recently, Michael Mansour in 2006. They're truly, when we talk about Garden Grove heroes and hometown heroes, they truly are our Garden Grove hometown heroes, and thought it would be very appropriate to dedicate this to them and any other potential future Congressional Medal of Honor winners that we would have from our city. So I brought it up to Councilman Bowie, since this actually is in his district. And he was very, very supportive of it, and I'll let him elaborate more.
Thank you, Councilman Pratingham. You have been the champion for many good, initiatives here. Let me put this thing out. It's difficult for me to talk. Just recently during the Veterans Days, I visit the cemetery in at the Pig family, and we do not have, because of the COVID pandemic, we no longer have the ability to honor our veterans, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. So I was in the middle of the cemetery by just myself and a couple of people wandering from tombstone to tombstone to look at those who have passed away. And I ran across so many tombstones showing some have fought and died in World War II, in the Korean Wars, in the Vietnam Wars. And I ran across one tombstone that really touched my heart. It belonged to Mr. Thomas Watson. He was born in 1949 and passed away in 1970. He must have passed away in my old country, Vietnam. And standing there in the middle of the cemetery, I was stunned to tumble over it. And I realized the tremendous pains that this former U.S. soldiers must have been suffered and their family. So I think when I heard Mr. Councilman Pratingham mentioned to me about the Congressional Medal Trail in our city. And I know about Mr. Mansour because I was at his event at the Garden Grove High School just a couple years ago. But I didn't know about the other two recipients. In our city, we have so many people who are very patriotic. They sacrifice our country. I think we have not done enough to honor them. And we need to make sure that, our city is always remembering them. I also coming back and talk to George about the monument for the, the Army's dogs. And we have agreed to support that project. Mr. Greg Duffy have asked me a couple of times to remind us of that. And I told him that because right now we are focused on the COVID, which is at the peak during that month. So I told him that once this is, once the pandemic is more under control, I will revisit it, and we will probably have to do some private fundraising to support for the cost of that project. But I think this is a good idea, and I hope that we have the support from colleagues to, name this, trail as the Congressional Medal Trail. Thank you.
So I would, I guess in order to vote on it, we got to bring it up next meeting, right? So for the same thing, I'll move that we bring this for action next meeting.
Second by
I would like to
Councilman
second
Bowie.
that.
One question on it. I wanted to clarify before we move forward on that is, did you want to call it the Congressional Medal of Honor Park and Bike Trail, or do you want, because here it's written Bike Trail and Park, but I noticed, George, it sounded good when you said Park and Bike Trail. I don't know. Something to talk about later, I guess. But.
Yeah, I think it's semantics.
Semantics, yeah. But I mean, before we put it, memorialize it, let's think about it exactly how you want to word it. But.
Yeah, I think its intent is a bike trail.
Okay.
So maybe bike trail first, but
okay.
But there will be some green space there, right, or park space. So you can do it either way.
Either way, yeah. Okay. Just thought I'd bring it up for discussion.
Great. I'm I'm thrilled about this and hope this leads to continuation of a bike trail and park farther down the line, as we were hoping it could be along the PE right of way and maybe other parts of town that are underutilized that could use some activation from an active transportation standpoint. So I've been a big advocate and excited about active transportation, and the thought of personalizing it, naming it, sounds wonderful to me. So thanks again, George and Fat, for bringing this forward.
Yeah, thank you both very much.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote to bring this back next week as a voting item?
Councilmember Brightigam.
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie.
Yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill.
Yes.
Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, and with that, we'll go back to item 6A, which is discussion on proclamation of Garden Grove solidarity with those who protest peacefully against injustice, racism, and hate, as requested by council members Kim Nguyen and Patrick Fatboui.
Councilmember, will you go first?
It's up to you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Fat.
Okay. Well, last week, early last week, I think it's probably last Tuesday, when I ran across the proclamation from the city of Thurston. It touched me that why our city have some resolution or statement from our PD department to condemn the murders of Mr. George Floyd. As a city, we have not considered a resolution or a proclamation to condemn the action of a few Minneapolis police officers. And I glanced through the 13th declaration, and I think that we need to consider something along the line, and also to speak out against and condemn the act of a few who seized on the protest, the righteous protest, and turned it into riot and lootings. So I sent a text message and called our city manager to suggest that perhaps the city management office could assist us on that. And I was so thrilled to learn a little bit later from Mr. Stein that the night before, Councilmember Kim also requested a similar action. So I really appreciate you and commend you on that. And I think all of us have been traumatized when we watched that video, having witnessed a black person being pushed by a knee of another officer for almost 9 minutes. It is inexcusable, it's unforgivable, and I think we all need to condemn that kind of action. Throughout the last many years, many residents have been have been aggressively pushed by a few officers that have resulted in death. And it does not, even though it does not happen quite a lot, but it's still happening. And it's not only happening to the black community, it's happening to other community, other ethnic, including the Latino, Hispanic, and Vietnamese as well. And I think by making this statement, I think we are trying to bring awareness to the people, and that I hoped, with more focus on this issue, this thing will not likely to happen again. And I would like to ask our council to support and consider this proclamation to be sent out to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowie. I first and foremost want to condemn the actions of the Minneapolis police officers that resulted in the murder of George Floyd. I want to express my disappointment that many chose to prioritize the narratives of looting and rioting over the injustice of George Floyd's death, murder. What happened to George Floyd and countless other black men and women was not the result of bad apples. It was a symptom of systemic racism, the rot at the root of the tree. Racism is not something you are born with. It is taught. It is learned behavior. It is a choice. When people say Black Lives Matter, they are not saying only, they are saying too. Black people in America were kidnapped and brought here as slaves. They were lynched. They were segregated, fed into prisons by the system. Systems such as redlining, discrimination in employment, and discrimination in education. These things were all perpetuated in the media, the movies, the shows, and the news that we watch. Simple truth, we should all be able to admit, but struggle to do so. I can go birding, jogging, relax in the comfort of my home, ask for help after being in a car crash, have a cell phone, play loud music, leave a party to get to safety, sleep, walk from the corner store, play in the park, go to church, lawfully carry a firearm, shop at Walmart, read a book in my car, decorate for a party, ask a cop a question, cash a check, take out my wallet, breathe. I can be arrested without the fear of being murdered, all because I am not Black. With that said, I want to acknowledge the students that led the protests that occurred here last week, and I hope that at some point in the future we can do a community spotlight recognizing Garden Grove High School and their Black Student Union. Over 3,000 people showed up in support of Black Lives Matter, a movement, not a group. I felt so much pride for my city, the students, families, as well as our police officers. I will say that when we began marching, I was extremely nervous. We first walked down Main Street, in which it was eerily quiet. Everything was boarded up. Folks were observing, recording, whispering amongst themselves, standing behind fences, and I literally started praying that I hoped that nothing would happen. And then we turned the corner, and people started honking. Business owners came outside and cheered us on. Residents stood outside of their homes with their signs, some offering water and snacks. As a 20-year-old Vietnamese Mexican-American who went to UC Santa Cruz and has been dubbed somewhat of a radical bra-burning feminist, I have attended a number of protests. And I will say that by far this was the most impressive, just the best one that I've ever experienced. And perhaps it's my bias for the city of Garden Grove, but I think it's also because I would have never imagined something of this magnitude happening here. I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Letitia Clark from the city of Tustin for her leadership. As the only Black woman elected in Orange County, I am sure she feels a tremendous amount of pressure, and I do not envy her for that. I admire her for that. I am glad to have the opportunity to amplify her voice, support her and our communities in Orange County. I join Councilman Bowie in proposing this proclamation to express our city's solidarity and would like to make the motion for its approval.
Second it.
Thank you. Councilmember Tu Ha Nguyen. Please go ahead.
I just want to chime in and echo Councilmember Kim Nguyen and Councilmember Phat for bringing on this proclamation. The pictures of last week, once I remember the date, June 3rd, the march in Garden Grove, 3,000 of young people march peacefully without any incidents. You speak up, you walk, that's beautiful. There's a picture where the moment continued, more civic engagement. You speak for the injustice, absolutely beautiful. And I have been in many protests because I come from a country communist. We protest for human rights. We protest for others that can't speak. But not many protests we see the young people come out, just like last week. It's totally beautiful. So I encourage you, I commend you, I encourage you to continue to do more civic engagement, to speak up, to engage, to be out there, to educate more, so let people heard. So thank you for this, and thank you for the proclamation.
If I may quickly, thank you, Councilmember Nguyen and Councilmember Bui, for bringing forth this proclamation. I think it's needed. I think it's needed at this time, and I would appreciate it after I make just a couple quick comments. I think we should read this aloud. I think it's worthy of that. I think we have work to do here in the city of Garden Grove. I think we have to continue to build up our community with love, mercy, empathy, and understanding. I think we need to remember that sometimes the biggest actions can actually come from the littlest of opportunities. We need to get to know our neighbors, understand them better, talk to them. I think we can find ways in our everyday community to build that trust and to work harder. We have to start within our hearts. And as I've said before, and I know we've heard a lot, and then we can work in our homes with our children, and then we send our children out and we send ourselves out, and hopefully we can change the world and make it a better place. And I know that I'm sitting up here with a council that is willing to come into this conversation and roll up our sleeves and work harder and engage and keep an open mind and an open heart. And I think we have, as I said, a lot of work to do, but this is a fantastic step. So if we could, I think if we could read this, one of you would, I would appreciate that.
May I suggest that you speak one paragraph and then I speak one and then the next one, we just take turns? That will be more entertaining.
Before we do that, did any other council member wish to make comments?
I just want, before we read it, I just want to, please to everyone that everyone by now condemned the action by the murder of Mr. George Floyd. But I think it's very important to also take note and figure out a way to bring the, everyone together. We need to move forward while we addressing that racial issue. But now is the time to bring everyone together instead of dividing each other. And I hope that this action by the City of Garden Grove is the first baby step toward that goal. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Proclamation, Garden Grove Solidarity. Whereas Garden Grove residents and businesses support one another when we are hurting, and today is no exception. And
whereas many of us cannot begin to understand the depths of anguish and pain caused by inexcusable treatment of Mr. George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we share in the anger and exhaustion that his death has sparked. And
whereas the anguish, suffering, and pain caused by the injustice, racism, and hate are reverberating throughout our country. And
whereas we stand with the African American members of our community, with all people of color in our community, with all those who have been marginalized and disenfranchised, we stand with the entire Garden Grove community. And
whereas Garden Grove Police Department operates under a set of values that prioritize the community in public safety and policing efforts, the long-standing Chief Advisory Council is made up of local residents and business leaders, and it operates to engage in candid dialogue with the Garden Grove Police Chief, Tom Dare, about how to serve the community effectively. Therefore, the men and women of the Garden Grove Police Department will continue to focus on the importance of respecting diversity in all forms and maintaining positive police relationship in our community. And
whereas the City Council supports peaceful protests in Garden Grove that serve as a critical tool for public awareness, we simultaneously condemn riots and looting, often fueled by outside agitators that are followed by violence and vandalism that destroy our institution and the very fabric of our society. And
whereas the City Council's commitment to community policing will not only continue, but will be enhanced in response to the recent events. And
whereas the city also intends to engage the community to promote open dialogues about intolerance of racism, implicit bias, and discrimination. We are Garden Grove, and we are strong.
Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Garden Grove, California, does hereby proclaim it is solidarity with those who protest peacefully against injustice, racism, and hate. And I think Kim and I would like to thank you and commend our Deputy City Manager Marie Stipe for helping us to draft this proclamation.
Thank you. I believe we have a motion and a second, correct?
Did you want to talk, John?
No.
Never kind of made its way down here. He was raising his hand.
Yeah, before we vote on it, I was just going to say, instead of at comments, I just wanted to bring up everything that we've all been going through as the whole world, really, in the last, since COVID and everything that's transpired. I just wanted to say that, I live my life by the golden rule. I'm a Christian. I'm a member of the Elks Club. One of their creeds is, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. If we really live by that, treat people like you'd want to be treated. Anybody you meet could be a family member. Treat them like you would treat your family. If you live your life that way, we would all be in a better place. I mean, the Elks Club of Garden Grove, I'm a member, Lodge 1952. Charity, justice, brotherly love, and fidelity. If we we pride ourselves here in Garden Grove of this community being so diverse, but yet we're so together, and we value each other and what we can do together. So please keep that in mind as you move forward and treat others how you want to be treated. Thanks.
Just, quality through continuous education, continuous development, continuous learning should be a basic tenet of all public service. Doesn't matter what you are in public service, you should always be seeking to improve. And so I totally support this. I support peaceful protesters, and I guess I echo everyone else's sentiments here.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we ask for a roll call vote?
Councilmember Brightigan?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes?
Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
That's great. I think that's a very good start, and I think we've got a lot of work to do ahead of us in light of everything that is happening in the world and everything that we're learning so quickly and absorbing lately. Next, we're going to go to matters. We'll go around the horn. I'm going to come back to you, Kim, next, but I do want to introduce one concept before I hand it off. One of the themes that's been very prominent in the last week or two has been public safety related, obviously, with the George Floyd incident and protests and whatnot thereafter. I've had several, I know this is very, very important to all of us as a council and as a city, but I've had several of my colleagues in particular who have been engaging with myself, also with staff, even arranging meetings and whatnot, which has led to kind of a meeting that they've got set up to do tomorrow amongst 3 of our colleagues, less than a majority. I've taken the liberty to form, I guess, an ad hoc committee to start this out. And this is something I think that's going to be very important to, like I said, all 7 of us to weigh in on. But I would like for this group consisting of Kim Nguyen, Stephanie Klopfenstein, and Tu-Ha Nguyen to kind of take the lead on initiating a series of meetings with staff, with our police department, possibly outside consultants or outsiders as necessary. Call it a public safety ad hoc committee, just to study, take inventory of where do we stand with our current policies, where could we improve. We've all received all these emails like 8 can't wait and things like that as an example of the types of things that we should be considering. I think there's a whole lot to digest there. I know just in my own conversations with our city manager, with our police chief, I know our police are a very receptive audience to having these types of conversations and just being kind of open book about diving in and helping us understand where we rank. I think we all have a lot of pride in our department and how it handles its business in terms of being a very diverse community. But there's always room for improvement, and it would be very prudent, especially at this juncture in time, I think, to to get that started. So kind of an effort to be a little more nimble and get a series of meetings without the formality of having to get all 7 of us to convene in a public hearing or public meeting format. Just several of us, as mentioned, could start that ad hoc committee and kind of get the dialogue going, and then start to report back to the council at large when we get a little clarity on what other agencies are considering, what advice is coming in from authors and the public and consultants within this realm in terms of how to look at our budget, our practices, our protocols and whatnot within the public safety. So do that. Anyway, so do I need to formalize that in any way?
No, I don't think you need formal action.
Okay. Okay. With that, then we will move on to matters, and I'll hand it back to Kim.
I asked to go first because I wanted to address the big elephant in the room, Commissioner Josh Lindsay. Many of us have been made aware of his live stream video gone wrong that is literally trending on all social media platforms for all the wrong reasons. There is a petition with close to 6,000 signatures. We've received at least 60 emails, multiple calls, private messages, and texts from multiple residents in Garden Grove. Folks are calling for his resignation and/or removal, to which I want to say that none of us but the mayor has the authority to do, as he is a directly elected mayor. Josh and I have spoken multiple times this past week. He has issued an apology. He has come tonight to speak. He has dedicated so much of his time to the city, and his love for it is not in question tonight. Folks jumped into his defense, sort of missing the point as to why he has been called out in the first place. And I empathize with him. The very people jumping to his defense are the very people that attack me constantly for the things that I say. And while I wish that they had compassion and understanding, they oftentimes don't. And I want to practice what I preach and treat others the way that I want to be treated, so I want to extend the compassion and understanding to Commissioner Lindsay. What we see happening is people whose viewpoints come from a racialized frame of reference are being called out. And because people of color are choosing not to protect white people's feelings about race anymore, it takes a lot of emotional labor not to trigger white people. I can only imagine what black people go through. I may be able to sympathize, but I'll never fully understand or experience what black people in America go through. If you think I don't feel uncomfortable up here a majority of the time, you don't get it. My very presence on this dais challenges white authority. And now, not only because I am in a position of quote-unquote power, but I'm in these spaces with the majority of white people. It feels like I am the token. Like I have to be at my best all the time because I represent so much more than just my residents. I am the first person of Latin descent elected to this city. Why is that? White privilege does not mean your life hasn't been hard. It just means that the color of your skin is not one of the reasons that is making it harder. If you are feeling attacked, shamed, uncomfortable, and believe it's undeservingly so, I ask you to take pause and to sit with that and ask yourself, why is it your knee-jerk reaction to get defensive and recite your life's resume as to why you're not racist? Having people of color in your family, mixed race, nieces, nephews, children, grandchildren, being married to a person of color, doesn't mean you're not racist. It's not a hall pass. It does not excuse you from being complicit. Talking about how we are such a diverse community in Garden Grove just drowns out the problems at hand, and it tries to push this message of universalism. And it's not okay. We are not all included in that message. And it won't change until we start to talk about it. White supremacy exists. Maybe not in the more overt and sometimes violent nature that we see in other places, but it exists. It exists in the space that we center around whiteness, especially here in Garden Grove. We cannot change Commissioner Lindsay's personal views. We can only ask that he do better in spaces that he occupies. He has the advantage of being a white man in these white spaces, to be heard and respected by others. I hope he chooses the opportunity to learn and grow. It's going to take a lot of patience and time because he has to unlearn learned behavior. I also want to not just serve platitudes, but provide actionable items. I intend to have a councilwoman book club that I hope to work with staff to have via Zoom so that more people can participate in, where we will be reading White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I've also been working with OC Human Relations and Councilwoman or Mayor Pro Tem Letitia Clark from Tustin in order to have a convening of electeds of color throughout various cities to meet with their police chiefs and have open dialogue about what's happening today, share ideas and how we can move forward and be better together. And with that, I would like to motion for the next council meeting an action item to require sensitivity and implicit bias training for all staff, council, and commissioners. This is not to include the police department, as their trainings go above and beyond what I am requesting. Would anyone like to second my motion?
I would like to second it.
I second it.
Mr. Mayor?
Please go ahead.
Kind of like to...
Mask.
I'm sorry. This is terrible. I apologize, Kim. I think I'm on the same wavelength as you, but what specifically are you talking about for training? Is this like an online type of training, or we come in for a day and get trained by a professional? Or?
Given COVID, I think that this will be more of a similar to our sexual harassment and ethics training, where we'll do it on an online platform, but I've already requested staff to look into that. And so next week when it's on the agenda, I'm sure they'll provide us plethora of options of which we can pick from.
Oh.
I second it.
We already had motion and second. I just had, this has been discussed a little bit offline, even coming into the meeting. I think it's a wonderful idea. Just we'll get maybe a little more detail defined between now and the next meeting when it comes back as a voting item. But it's something that we currently don't have in place. It's hit us like, right in the face that this is something that we desperately need to implement. And so I encourage that we move forward and get this agendized and then try and understand how we can implement it with, and the details I think we can work out in terms of who actually gets it. Is it all staff? Is it just directors? Is it whatever? Is it, but I mean, at a minimum, all appointed commissioners, all elected officials who have prominence within the community should be well versed with sensitivity training that in a diverse community that we have.
Is this something that we have to have everyone involved right away next week or the week after, or something that we can phase out in the next couple months? For example, a smaller group will be meeting to go through the screening first, and then we go on with a few other groups. Is it because we want to bring everyone in one room one time to save money, or what is the goal here? That why we have to have everyone being trained once at the same time?
Maybe let me just jump in on this. Say, since we're agendizing this to be, Omar's loving this. Since we're agendizing this to be a voting item for next week, maybe let's stop there. But I would encourage that over the next couple weeks, I would encourage each of us individually to interact with our city manager, with staff, about any thoughts, feelings on how this could be implemented, when it gets implemented. Keep in mind too, we're in an election year. We're 5 months away from all commission appointments expiring and various elected terms, coming up for re-election or election. So naturally, this is something that maybe doesn't get implemented today, this week, or overnight, but maybe it's something that, I think it's something we're trying to feather in for the long term, right? This is something that's just a good new policy to implement. So I'd say it's more important that we get it right than we do it hastily. Same with the public safety ad hoc, those sort of things. So I think the urgency of it is not as critical as the just the quality of it, getting it right.
I think the urgency is to make sure that we're acting on this now knowing that obviously these things take time to roll out, making sure you're finding the appropriate programs and so forth. So this would be something that we would do similar to how we have sexual harassment training and ethics training. This would be a part of that. Is that what we're?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
I mean, I definitely, and I just, well, I guess we need to vote on that before.
Yeah, why don't we just vote on it?
Okay.
Did we already have a motion?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second, and can we get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Brightingham?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Klopfenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
We'll go back to going around the horn under matters. I do want to address something else that Kim just said a minute ago. This was regard to commissions, commissioner appointments, removals, that sort of thing. Yes, technically it was brought to our attention that only the mayor can motion to nominate, and then the council ratifies any appointments and removals. As my colleagues know, in the last couple cycles when this has come up in terms of the commission appointments, which I guess would happen again in November, December, so 5 months away. I've always tried to be incredibly democratic about how we do it. Like I weigh in and say, ask everyone for priorities and within the various commissions of their likes and dislikes and why, and try and really rationalize through that in a way that we can all come to consensus. And I think it's been a sausage-making process both times that we've done it. It's been, I think, a lot of work on my part to do it that way, as opposed to just sort of nominating a cast of characters and then going through the process of ratifying. But I genuinely wanted to have that diversity, which I'm proud I think we have achieved. It's not, may not be perfect, but gosh, if you look across our commissions, we do have at least ethnic diversity. We tried to do, we were sensitive to district diversity. It didn't necessarily happen maybe perfectly, but it was a conscientious effort. We also dealt with applications we received, and it wasn't like there was an unlimited amount of applications. So we've tried to do it. But my point on that was just basically that I don't want to feel like I control that all alone. So if anyone has a burning desire to bring forward a voting item on adding or removing a commissioner at any time, you're welcome to do so, and that's not all in my court. So thank you. Councilmember Klopfenstein.
I just want to thank the people that came out and spoke to express their frustrations in regards to Mr. Lindsay's extremely insensitive comments. I heard some words such as accountability and transparency and action and fairness, and I hope that this sensitivity training and bias training starts to provide that platform and affords us the opportunity to move forward knowing that we're trying to learn and grow and listen. In this proclamation, we talk about the city also intends to engage the community to promote open dialogues about tolerance of racism, implicit bias, and discrimination, that we are Garden Grove and we are strong. I believe we will work at that, and I believe we are strong. I believe that we do celebrate diversity. We are a compassionate city. There's always room for improvement. I do hope that I will continue to lead with love and mercy and empathy, because I think that's what we need, especially today. I just have a couple other quick things. I hate to juxtaposition so sharply here, but I wanted to ask quickly about our playgrounds here in Garden Grove. I haven't driven by one in the past couple of days, but I was curious if the caution tape has been removed from the playground equipment and how soon we would be able to do that for the community. So I don't know if that's something that could be addressed tonight or come back with, or maybe it's already gone. I'm not sure.
Councilmember Klopfenstein, I've seen actually some of the tape removed at some of the playgrounds around the city.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is get with John Montanchez, our Community Services Director, first thing in the morning, and have him prepare a little memo, a little update report for all of you about exactly where we're at with that, and get that to you if I could.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Finally, one last thing. As the Vector Trustee for Garden Grove, I've had some complaints about mosquitoes and people very angry with vector control, just not maybe coming out to their properties as frequently, or communication breakdowns. Because of COVID-19, there were a lot of staff members that were not able to do certain services or jobs that they provide the same way because they need multiple people to come out to certain sites at the same time. Now that we're moving forward, they have the PPE that they need. We are getting back online. That district is now providing those services again. So I think some of the mosquito issues that we're seeing in the city will calm down some now that we're providing the larvicide treatments and so forth that protect us from the mosquitoes. It will probably be a heavy mosquito season, especially if the heat keeps up. We're lucky to not have any West Nile virus cases currently in Garden Grove. But going forward, if you have a serious issue with mosquitoes in your neighborhood or anywhere you see it in the community, please reach out to Vector Control, ocvector.org. You could also contact me, and I can pass along your information. Thank you.
Councilmember Bui.
Okay. Well, I just would like to thank you, our officer in the police department and city staff for being able to keep our city safe. I also would like to thank you, the community who came out to protest on Wednesday, June 3rd, for making it a safe protest for all of us. I think the communities, in Orange County and nearby was, looking at that and really applaud us for, making sure that there is no protest, no riot and looting happen during our protest. And that we have set a very good example for a lot of people to follow. I think that is very important. Now, because of the COVID, many inmates was released early. And due to that, there have been a increased crime, rise in crime. And I think it's very important that we need to work together so that we can keep an eye on our neighbors and to maintain safety for us. Now is the time more critical for us to unite together and figure out a solution to move forward for our city, as well as setting an example for many other communities in our nation. Now is not the time to blaming each other, but a time to find a solution to bring a better environment for all of us. And with that, I hope that our PD will continue their hard work, and the community will work together with our PD to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bredigan.
So basically, I just want to give a shout out to our city staff, Public Works and Police Department for the work that they did in facilitating the protest that we had, that large protest, over 3,000 members. Also, as Councilman Bui said, I'd like to thank the protesters who came out, made their point known, and they kept it very professional, very civil, and much appreciated. Also, a large shout out to Garden Grove Police Department. A lot of people don't realize that not only were they here in Garden Grove, but they were shipping them off all over to cities throughout the county. They were providing mutual aid to a lot of different demonstrations. They were going pretty strong for a long period of time. And anyway, we really appreciate it. Garden Grove PD, thank you for stepping up and putting in those hours for us. Lastly, and Councilwoman Kloffenstein basically talked about the vector control and the improvement. One thing that comes up every year is the base vector control, because the county doesn't cover the military base over there at Los Alamitos. They've got canals and sitting ponds on their property. And I get photos from over the fence of all the mosquitoes and critters crawling in their canals and whatnot. And I think that contributes greatly to to the mosquito problem. So I would ask if city staff could draft a letter, a presumptive letter, asking them to please get on it before it becomes a problem like it generally does every year. And maybe if the mayor would be so inclined to sign that and get that off to them, asking them if they would get in front of the issue this year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
First of all, I want to wish Councilwoman Kloppenstein a happy birthday. I see you're listed here. We're going to skip the cake tonight, I think, but happy birthday anyway. 21 all over. Yeah, 21.
Hey.
A couple years experience, but anyway, I wanted to mention, as your director for the Orange County Fire Authority, I wanted to give a shout out to the Orange County Fire Authority members that have been out there serving through this whole thing. You know, the Orange County Fire Authority is a huge organization that has handled, 2 million residents in Orange County, 24 cities, all the county areas. They do an outstanding job. It's an outstanding board. It's an outstanding group of firefighters. They're heroes because right now they're out there working every day, and through this pandemic, they haven't been asking for anything. They've been going to work. They've managed it well to protect the workers, the firefighters. They've split staff in case something was to happen and some people get infected. We couldn't afford to have half the fire service out of commission, so they were very strategic on how they placed their manpower. And to me, it's been pretty seamless. We've had a lot of good stuff going on there, so I just wanted to give a big shout out to them. And that's pretty much all I have tonight. I know it's a difficult time with everything that's been going on. I'm very proud of the way that Garden Grove handled the protest situation. The police department and the organizers worked well together to do that, and it was, I was proud of the way that was handled in the most part. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Tuhowen.
I guess I'm the last one. Oh, no. Mayor's after. I have a few things to share. First of all, just want to say thank you to the city staff and the police department for during the marching, they direct traffic. So we have no very safe. So thank you for that. And at the same time, I have a few things to share. Is in the past week and today I have an opportunity to join with the California API Legislative Caucus, Assembly Member David Chu, and others lawmakers, working with the governor's office to work on some of the guidelines for some small businesses reopening. I guess my mask off. Sorry. So better. And we've been working together with the governor's office and some of the lawmakers in Sacramento and stakeholders, especially on the nail salon stakeholder. We've been working together on the guidelines with the California Public Health and business. And we, for the past couple meetings in last week and today, we are moving forward to draft a final guidelines so that we'll be able to help the small businesses, especially the nail salons, to opening. I just want to report on that because, as you know, the nail salons has hit heavily as well for the past 3 months of COVID-19. And everyone is committed to opening up the economies for business. But these are very complex discussions, and it's balancing as well. But don't forget, we are still in a pandemic, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. The important thing is we all have to remember that we are in it together, and that we have to continue to discuss that about safety, adhere to the guidelines. And I think the guideline by the CDC is to continue as and the state as well, is to social distancing and wearing masks. I know that wearing masks is a very hot topic in Orange County right now. We just have our public health officer resign, very unfortunate. But then for us, every one of us is responsible for ourselves, and we're responsible for others. So as a person working in the medical field, I always adhere to the guidelines, which is the city wish to continue to wearing masks. So I encourage public to do so. And at the same time, in regard to the peaceful protest back last week, very beautiful once again, and also something to learn, a lesson to learn out of that. And I thank you, Councilmember Kim Nguyen, for discussing about the insensitive training. I think it's very needed to be able to, for all of us to move forward. And for Commissioner Lindsay, I do think that it's very easy to resign. It's very easy to remove, but it's harder. It's much harder to stand up, to stood up, to take the ownership of the mistakes. And then if you do, it's going to take time to redeem the trust from the people. It takes time to educate yourself and to make sure that we are, public here to, so that is much harder for that. And I know that today you're here, you take the ownership, you step up, you take the ownership, and let's, continue to move forward. But like I say, it will take hard work to redeem, okay? And like I say, I am, and we are, live in Garden Grove, very proud to live in Garden Grove, and we are very proud that our community are much stronger together, much stronger. So thank you very much.
Hi there. I'll start with Josh. I think, so for starters, I haven't heard going around the horn anyone.
Mayor, if I may, so I would like to ask colleagues to agendize one item. If there's still time for me to do that, then
please go ahead.
Okay. Colleagues, you just heard to talk about the impact of the COVID to the nail salon industry. And they are heartbreak because these are the low-level business industry that rely on having shop open for them to make a living. And I have heard many that are in various distraught. We do not understand how could it be that the hair salon were able to be open, and yet the nail salon are not allowed to. Understanding that they are in the same situation that are in very close proximity. The hairstylists have to be, literally a feet or two away from the customer, and so is the nail salon workers. So I would like to ask for your support to agendize for next council meetings to come with the proclamation to urge the Governor Newsom to also consider allowing nail salon to open as soon as we can. I think that if we are allowing the hair salon, then we should allow the nail salon.
I'll second that.
I want to back this up too, but I do want to ask, is a proclamation the proper vehicle for that, or what would you call it, General Counsel? How should we frame this? If we want to advocate on behalf of our very vibrant nail industry and Nailing It, who's been out in front, who's a Garden Grove-based group who's been out in front of this charge, advocating on behalf of the nail industry, if we wanted to support them or make a token of support from Garden Grove to the governor's office, how do we frame that?
Yeah, so normally there would be two ways that the city council can do that in addressing the governor or the state legislature. In this case, it actually is a governor. You can either write a letter where all council members can sign the letter asking the governor to consider the nail salons. And the other option is for staff to prepare a resolution resolving that the basically saying the same thing. So it's really up to the council what you wish to direct us to do. If you do authorize agendizing this matter for the next meeting.
I hope we would consider a resolution because it is a lot more official than just a simple letter.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was
Go ahead,
just
Scott.
thinking of, if council was concerned about the urgency and not waiting 2 weeks for it and wanted to do something faster. I was just trying to think through, what might be more.
Yeah, do we need the formality of an action and coming back and voting in 2 weeks? And I mean, nail salons may be open in 2 weeks for all we know.
Yeah,
Oh,
There's already pressure. Could we get a letter out tomorrow or something?
Yeah. So a letter we can send out tomorrow. And, you don't need to take action. I think that if you give us direction, we can put a letter together. A resolution will need to come back on the agenda. That's a more formal action.
Mr. Mayor? I do believe, by reading the newspaper, that the governor announced we're moving into phase 3 Friday anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. What I've read anyway is that the governor has announced we're moving into phase 3 on Friday anyway, and I do believe the nail salons are under phase 3. If I might be wrong, but maybe they're further on into.
No, they're still getting pushed out, still getting singled out, and they're not included in that list that's opening this Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're coming together and they're getting very vocal about it. They did have kind of their own, I don't know if you call it a protest, but they did have a press conference or a protest specifically about this yesterday, I think in Westminster, and I think there's a contingency that's heading up to Sacramento to go make their case, and so they're very actively pushing for this, and this is something obviously very near and dear to Garden Grove in terms of just being kind of an epicenter of the nail salon industry.
Waiting 2 weeks then might be kind of too late. Maybe we should consider the letter.
Colleagues, well, I also understand that given certain circumstance, sometimes we can push our resolution, given certain circumstance. Is there something that we think that it's warrant that we could act today to have a resolution drafted, or that is simply not a?
Well, by voting to put on the next agenda, you will have a resolution drafted.
No, I mean having a resolution for tomorrow or the next day.
They have a special meeting.
See, normally resolutions are formal action of the city council, and the mayor signs it. And unless we can show in minutes that the city council, was presented a resolution and voted on it, it's not going to have much of a, tooth to it.
Okay.
A letter we can send out tomorrow. And in fact, we all took notes, and we can definitely send a letter tomorrow that the mayor can sign, and then we can follow with the resolution at your next meeting.
Right. Let's do both. Is there a way to fast track this with a sense of urgency under the circumstances that we've been on lockdown for 2.5 months, and that there's one specific industry which is near and dear to Garden Grove's heart that's being singled out and sort of blamed for starting COVID, if you will, and being not allowed to reopen relative to the other businesses within its class?
The city council policies and procedures were adopted by the council for itself, and the council can actually make exceptions. So the only issue we have right now is the Brown Act. The matter is not on the agenda. So under state law, if there is an urgency such that it's an item that arose after the posting of the agenda, and 2/3 of the city council finds that it's an urgency, you can move to agendize it today as an urgency matter. It does require 2/3 vote of the city council to get on the agenda today. And then once you get on the agenda, you do have the opportunity to start throwing out whereases that we are going to write notes on, and then you vote on it at the end of you can basically draft it on the fly. But you won't have anything in writing in front of you. It'll be our notes.
Yeah, that's the question. So then we would have to sort of draft some notes right now to kind of say what goes into it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't really, we could make an argument for the urgency of it, and we could.
So the letter then?
We could have a special meeting in 3 days.
Councilmember Tuhowen's been patiently waiting to speak for us.
Yes. I can tell you right now, 2 weeks going to be, probably the nail salon going to be open before that, because they at the final, where they're going to finalize the guideline, according to the meeting I have today at 2 o'clock this afternoon with the governor's office. So the guidelines have been drafted, and will be probably next week they can be finalized, and when that's finalized, they can move forward. So 2 weeks is going to be a little long. So I recommend to have a letter right now.
Yeah.
It's better, it's faster, and it's definitely strong as well, the semi-resolution.
Straw vote, does
Yeah,
everyone?
so if you do want all of your signatures on the letter, I strongly recommend that you vote to agendize it right now as an urgency matter.
Okay.
So you need a motion and a second to agendize it as an urgency matter. It's an item that needs to be acted on today.
So
And
I
if-
believe
Mr.
Fat
Mayor,
brought this up,
I would
and
like
George
to,
was prepared to second it.
Yeah.
Well, emergency man. I have no problem with that. I'm thinking, why not just do both? We can send the letter out and still do the resolution next week, right?
No.
Or
We could still-
not next
we
week.
could still agendize it, and then if necessary, or if not necessary, we could cancel it.
Right.
If we're all getting our nails did.
Because
between now
there's
and
no
2
way
weeks
we're
from now, then we
going
could
to work out all the
we could always
where tos
cancel it
and
from the agenda.
therefores, tonight probably. So I'll move it then if we need to.
Well, yes, I would like to send that out tomorrow and following with a possible resolution in 2 weeks. So that we would agendize it for that resolution for 2 weeks from now.
That's okay to package up the letter and a reso in one
Yes.
shot?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got a motion by Councilmember Bowie, and seconded by Councilmember Brightingham.
Yeah, and this is to add it to the agenda today as an urgency so they can fully discuss it.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And, well, and it's so that we get a letter out tomorrow and that we're coming back in 2 weeks with a proper reso.
Correct. Yeah, you still need to discuss what's the content of the letter, so it's
Okay.
better that you agendize it today.
Okay.
So roll call vote to add it to the agenda.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Brightingham?
Yes.
Councilmember Deidre Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilmember Bowie?
Yes.
Councilmember Kloffenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Okay, so that's that, but now we still have to discuss what we're putting, bullet points of what we're putting in the letter and in the
Yes.
reso?
Yeah, what you're putting in the letter, and then staff will work on a reso to present to you.
Maybe should I
Sure.
start and maybe just try and frame some bullet points? And the context of this and the urgency of this is that we went into a global health pandemic, which was relatively unexpected, and we had to go on lockdown, and there's been great economic impact as a result of that to all of our businesses, but including the nail industry, which is a very prominent industry within Garden Grove. So then sort of out of the blue, the governor came out and opined that the nail industry was at the epicenter of the spread of this virus in the state, and has sort of singled out the nail industry for whatever reason as not being allowed to reopen as fast as other businesses within its category. And we're urging, I guess, a reconsideration of that in support of our prominent nail industry that exists within Garden Grove. Is there anything else I missed?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good opening, but I also would like to emphasize the fact that the governor allowed the reopening of the hair salon, but not the nail salon. And hair salon and nail salon are very, very similar in nature. They are both in very close proximity to the customer, and they both, have a lot of customer coming in. So I think allowing hair salon and not allowing nail salon to be open is something that we totally, do not understand, and we would like him to, open the nail salon, sort of, as a part of the hair salon, but not waiting for the nail salon to be in the phase 3. Along those lines, I think that would be what we think need to be in the letter.
Councilmember Kim Nguyen?
And while I understand the plight of folks in the nail business and wish that this was not what was happening right now, I'd like to point out that they're technically not being singled out. This is a standard applicable to different industries in the beauty industry, including waxing, tattoos, lashes, eyebrow tattoos, etc. This is not just nails. Hair salon is making that exception in barbershops, and they're not allowing for shaves and for recommending no shampoos so that you're eliminating the super close face-in attention that you normally would get during those particular services. So just clarifying that it's not just the nail salons. I can't get a tattoo, can't get my lashes done, I can't get my eyebrows done. There's a lot of services that are pending. So just wanted to make sure that we understand that part of it. And also just, I have to, so I apologize in advance. I just find it really interesting that we are really having a lengthy discussion about this when we had super concerning, urgent matters regarding behavior of our commissioner, and we barely talked about that. So I just had to say that, but okay, I'm done.
I still want to come back around to that other part, but we got sidetracked on this, so let's finish out this thought. Any other comments to include into the letter or resolution being drafted?
I think if you just also mention, obviously our feeling that it's a very high, should be set as a high priority to make that decision, you know, I don't know, include that in the resolution. Highest priority.
Okay.
Okay. Whoever drafts this letter and whatever, I would urge a quick conversation with Tam Nguyen of Advanced PD College, also with Nailing It, who's been kind of leading the charge on this whole thing, maybe for help with context and wording in terms of what the messaging is that we want to try and send up to the governor's office on behalf of all of our nail salons. Okay, with that, we already have motion second. We've had a unanimous vote, and so I think we've now defined it. Are we done with that item, or do you have everything you need, or do you need more?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We're going to circle back around to matters, and I would still like to speak and kind of have my turn at just sort of addressing a couple items that came up for tonight. Josh Lindsay, if I haven't, per what Kim said too, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about him in going around the horn on matters, and obviously no one motioned to bring that back as an agendized item. I don't believe I will either. If he is allowed to stay on, I think he is fully aware that within his next 5 months remainder of his term, that he should consider it somewhat of a probationary period, and I think he's well aware that he needs to act as kind of the poster child, if you will, of sensitivity and not just for himself, but as a city representative to kind of help lead the charge on how we ought to evolve as a community and address certain underlying issues that I think are relative, not just to Josh because we're picking on him, but I think to a lot of people in our community. I want to commend a comment that Councilmember Fatboui said earlier, that kind of now is not the time to blame each other. It's more time. Stephanie said something similar as well in her own words. It's not time to blame each other. It's more time to come together and find underlying ways that we can kind of reconvene. It's been saddening to me over the last week or two, just all the anger, all the angst, all the violence, all the divisiveness that we've seen. I love to kid myself, I guess, that Garden Grove gets some of these things right as a very diverse city, as a large city with a diverse population. I like to kid myself anyways that we have vision for being kind of a global economy magnified right here into one city. My eyes, I think, are fully open in just the last week that we've got a lot of work to do in that regard. We've got a lot to learn. We've got a lot of growing to do. Per my colleague Kim Nguyen recommending a book. I haven't ordered the book yet because it's back ordered, and I may actually just get it as an audiobook or do something different, or a digital book. But White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I was that guy that she describes in there that would say that, I'm I'm not racist. I have, all my friends are, look at my diversity of my core friends. And I mean, that's a true statement. I'm surrounded by people of all different walks and colors. And, I'm very well traveled. I consider myself to have a very high, not IQ, but EQ, ethnic quotient or whatever, is sort of a concept that's coming into college training level stuff these days. And Cal State Fullerton has a program that talks about the different Qs. We're all learning about the adaptability quotient this year too, as COVID has sort of come into our world. So there's a lot of Qs out there other than just IQ. And I kid myself that I don't have, I'm not white privileged. I've worked hard. I've had multiple jobs my whole life. I'm an entrepreneur. I've had massive failures. I've worked hard to kind of establish the successes I've earned, and I've never had anything handed to me on a silver platter, and I kid myself, right? But it's that realization when you start to, and I did listen actually several times to Robin DiAngelo's dissertation on this, so that's something I have done. I'm actually excited to read the book now, where she talks about how we get it wrong and how we who do enjoy certain privileges that others do not are not quick to speak up and sort of help level the playing field because we enjoy those advantages, frankly. And so I think there's, like I said, there's a lot that the whole entire community could learn. I'm excited to venture onto that path myself, and I would just encourage that going forward we all try and kind of drop our guard a little bit and find ways to, as an entire city, as a community, find ways to come together and understand each other better and work with each other better and become an example that the rest of the world can build upon. That would be, I think, my most lofty vision for the city that I've had for quite some time, and it takes events sometimes like this to bring it to the surface. And so I'm going through my own sort of reinvention of myself, my own discovery in this matter, and would like to encourage everyone else to do the same. With that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I'll hand it over to our city manager if he has anything else to add before we close.
Mayor, council members, the only thing I'd add is I know if we could symbolically join you in the sentiments of your proclamation. I know on behalf of all of our central managers, all of our department directors, really all of our city employees, we want to be supportive of you in this proclamation and the words in the proclamation. It's important to us too, and you gave us a lot of direction tonight and initiatives that you want to move forward on, and we look forward to working with you on those. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. General Counsel, do we have any need for closed session or anything to report out?
No, we don't have any.
Okay. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, everyone. With that, we will stand adjourned for this evening. Thank you.